My subject is language, symbols, identity, and globalization. For years, European papers discussed about issues of all continents' identity and their goals for united Europe. Since the discussion was necessary and reasonable, more than this homogeneity, material art and novelty, myth of her name, language, family in the European center of Western Christianity, aristocracy, etc. Divergency already spoken, but they came through and comes from her historical appearance. Inside and outside borders, the position of great languages and the fear of small culture, economic balance, natality, careful access of studious lines, cultural and religious clashes, indeed delineated of religious classes, primarily Islamic, within Christian society. Long ago, in print and electronic media, some of these characteristics presented as a general synthesis, which we are here to research and accompany after the ingredient of Albania. Seems like a dynamic community that connects the past, present, and future. European culture resembles the rock of conglomerate, downtrodden from the waves of time, that allows you to see the combination of different chronological layers. The matriarchal world of farmers, Neolithic breeders, who discovered and civilized old Europe. Masculine society and combative of Kurgan's people, for people recalled here as a late history for traditional knights of Scandinavia, which oppressed the first ones to award Indo-Europeans, invasion of the Celts with mysterious rites of burial, Hellenic civilization with its city-states, with its philosopher and genius artists. In this flow, the survival of social modes and the habits of Albanians are closely linked with the great subject of literature of ancient Greece. Roman world and its perfection of law, administration, politics, and architecture, and the old statues of all cities, especially the coastal cities, Trieste, Deja, and Shkodra, with consequences of Albanians' canon in continental area. Germany's macrocosm and its regenerative power over a moribund Rome, in the spirit of Arnold survival above the space of Illyrian agony. Byzantine universe, with its resources, Judeo-Christian religion, and Slavic mysticism and unparalleled legal code. Huge Suvala Arab Muslim, and its scientific and theological inspiration. Jewish diaspora with its intellectual capacity, economic and artistic. Latin community with its royal hierarchy, with its technology proficiency and military. However, European identity can be conceived only in the intersection of a broad range of a cross-cultural movement from a moral, political, and ideological that could accomplish this amalgam of all individual contributions in the most complex way on the Albanian territory. Recognizing the equality of all before God, the dignity of the human person, looking for the common good. It builds and establishes the foundation of thoughts and becomes the unity of faith factor, the social organization and the means of expression. These series are also political practices and administrative experiences as it principalities, mostly Albanian kingdoms, for example, the Tsar Dushan, and empires, Byzantine, Ottoman, Russian, and the last Yugoslav and Euro-Americans. In this way, the order is placed and form the social body, build alliances and create pathways to differentiate elites, simultaneously displaying a range of human systems, craftsmen and corporation, monks, pilgrims and crusaders, aristocrats and erudites, merchants and travelers. Remember here, Brocardian, Arnold von Harben, Susie Salentin, Amy Buena, Byron Connie, Nopchan, etc. So none of these elements are missing Albanian's world, even in the historical context, as in geographical context. Above this European area and within these historical circumstances, the Albanian people had built its historic identity, linguistic and spiritual materials of the 20th century. communication of some of the most references in the early 18th, 19th, and even 20th century, I believe that it would not be arbitrary but a form of communication with history, such as the early centuries have not driven some of the important linguistic periods. Congress of Monastir, 1908, literature, Romanticism, 1836, scientific Albanology, Harvard Seminar in Palermo, 1734, etc. With these parameters inherited from history, Albanians have left behind the material world and the spiritual of 100 years period of Ottoman and returned to Western tradition by selecting their communication code. Middle Antiquity and the Middle Ages, Shkodra, Skanderbeg, Leja. Scientific contemporary concept of Austro-German school, Graz, Vienne, Shkodra. Latin alphabet, Congress of Monastir, Shkodra's literature committees. Culture alla pranga the removal of veil, secularism, school separation of religion, etc. In the political, social, and cultural Albanian colonies began to lose their relevant functions in Istanbul, Bucharest, Sofia, Egypt, and even the Italian Arbret, and their place was taken from concentration of intelligence in Tirana and in some other cities in Albania, such as Korça, Shkodra, Elbasan, Gjirokastër, Durrës, and Vlora. At the same time, the paradigmatic concept of the Renaissance was renewed, which were known before, but now become part of school referrals and standard models with horizontal extension in Albanian society. Religious ideology. Albanian's religion is Albanian. This one is the opinion of Vasco Shkodran. With experience its Renaissance, especially after 1968, when Albania started preaching religion in society. Communication with Europe. That rises from the West, like Prussia, which experienced its Renaissance in anti-communist protest in 1989 with the slogan, "We want Albania like Europe," and communicate with the neighbors, Serbs, Greeks, and Bulgars, which has become the synonyms concept of good neighbor lines already at the time of settlement, of Kosovo status, and even at the Balkan states who claim to enter the European Union. In fiction, in historiographical and scientific research in epistemology with Albanian culture and knowledge, as well as within the National School of Foreign Albanologists, during the last century created a common structure of the building. Communicate with history, the Illyrian origin of the Albanians and the Albanians' language as common code. Kings, Queen Teuta, King Gam, King Bardi, and King Theura. Illyrians tribe, Dardans, Molosians, Radians, Albans, Enkele, Taulans, Liburnet, Dalmats, etc. Historic event, the Assembly of Leja, Harbour's Assembly, the League of Prizren, Congress of Monastir, Independence Day or Flag Day, Congress of Albanian Language Spell, 1972. National heroes from the Middle Age to the present day, Skanderbeg, Abdi Froshi, Smart Chanoy, Baran Sush, Bujo Uchinov, Adenia Shor. Cultural monuments, castles or bridge, Sacred Bride, Bridge, Bridge of Arta, Risotto Castle. Emblematic signs, the eagle and the head of the goat, etc. Also, mainly transitional period, we realize that the impediment to the northern area of Albanian territories are not the typical of geographical conditions, but economic dependence from one city to another, respectively their separation with close borders. Jakova, Prizren, Peja, Novi Pazar, now the last Rojoja, from historic and economic cities. Shkodra, Skopje, and Urchin, and separation, respectively, dependent area of Albanian historical cities in the late 20th century. Kups, Barantsuri, Dibra, Rojoja, and Tropoja from Dibra, Macedonia, Prizren, Jakova, and Peja from Kosova, and Rojoja from Montenegro. All these historical ingredients, economic, social, cultural, philosophical, and linguistically indicate the homogeneity of Albanian people by the end of the 20th century. At the end of the 20th century, Albanians are entered with linguistic signs, which reflect the identifying paradigm of Albanian connection with Europe. Europe, for example, U instead of the Slavic B, God, with the capital letters. F, In English, the letter A, along with its use in the designation originally Albanian. A with tail, round A in circle, or even monkey's head. However, contrary to their right position to Europe, Albanians are holding another attitude towards themselves, language, history, and their future. Relations with Albanians have escalated time with over relationships between Albania and Serbia, the concept of Slugova for the independence of Kosovo as an independent state, and open to Serbia and Albania. Albanian national identity has aligned in the identity of a Kosovar national. This is the opinion of Vijen Kelmendi and Nejmedin Spahio. Referring to the historical heritage in the area of the Illyrian tribe of Dardania, initially the propaganda idea of Serbian Academy, Milutin, Gashania, Panula, Pavazoglu, eventual language, Dardarna, perhaps as a reaction, even a concept that had existed in Albanian officials since for Southern Illyrian, First Illyrian. Historical personalities, Peter Bogdan, historical cities, Prizren, etc. One of the Albanian ethnonyms as Dibran, Judita, Shkodran, etc. Kosovar ethnonyms, Lapian, which previously had been determining the Albanian population in the territories of former Yugoslavia, from Albanian nationality to Londoner Albania. The common ethnonym for all ethnicity living in Kosovo in former Yugoslavia, determinant for themselves by ethnic Kosovo Albanians expelled in European countries, to be distinguished from Albanian nationals. Long several local and foreign theories are trying to identify a new nation, a Kosovar nation. These theories of Kosovar nation often are based on the concept of this association and prompt lately for gags and talks. North and South Albania, there are men to understand why their opinions are awaiting feedback coldly and even fear. Days ago, a representative of the United States administration in Washington, speaking to resolve the Kosovo issue, stated, "If we choose the Kosovo problem, we will deal with Kosovo as Kosovar issue. If we let it get out its bed, it would become the Albanian issue." I believe that it is not difficult to understand that this separate identification of Kosovo Albanians from the one from Albania are made to tame the Serbian attitude toward its propaganda for the so-called Greater Albania, and especially within the Albanian opposition movement for ethnic Albania. However, I cannot understand how the instance of some Albanian analysts that this paradigm, which tends to be historical, contribute to violence with their commitment. Why can say so? That's all I have. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pesar.
Abdullah.
For this historical vision of how Kosovo, Albania's identity and Albania's identity in general are connected with